Greetings. Greetings to you all. Welcome to See Things Above TV. I'm your host, Lucha Cooney. This is where we keep our eyes on Christ. He shapes our perspective, and we keep all things in a biblical lens. We report all things through a biblical lens, all right? So that's what we do out here. And we have a few stories for y'all tonight, man. Just grateful to be able to join y'all once more this evening, or for y'all to join me. It has been time has gone fast today. You know what I'm saying? The time has gone fast today, but we are here, and I'm grateful. We almost at the end of the week here. Shout out to Brother Alton in the building. Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining. All right. So, yeah, I know we're a little bit early. I'm pretty sure people will join as we go along, but we want to get the ball rolling out here. And so, as many of y'all know, we had the BET Awards 2025 take place, okay? And in this awards ceremony, of course, it's a star-studded event. You got a lot of things going on. You got gospel artists. You got sort of gospel artists, which we're going to get into. You got everything in between, and everybody's there. Huge event. Well done. The production, I think, keeps going up for that event, so that's a good thing, at least on the technical side of things. However, the more and more you see things like the BET Awards, we are reminded over and over again that you are dealing with a group of people who are essentially cultural Christians, okay? So I believe that the BET Awards fosters that kind of lifestyle, that sort of cultural Christianity. And again, we will get into all of that, but let's go ahead and just kind of report on this a little bit. Shout out to my man Kyle in the building. What up, Kyle? Been a minute. Good to see you. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up, man. We have this article here. I think it's going to help us right here. So, all right. So Kirk Franklin takes home a big award at BET Awards 2025 and celebrates his wife. And heartfelt speech, all of that, of course. Let's just read a little bit of this. It says, many entertainers were honored at the prestigious BET Awards 2025 last night. But 4 stars took home an extra special trophy, the Ultimate Icon Award, for their career achievements. The honorees this year were Mariah Carey, Snoop Dogg, Jamie Foxx, and Kirk Franklin. So Kirk Franklin is always included in, when you talk about big name celebrities, iconic people who've been around, legends who are still doing it, he's included in that conversation, okay, for sure. He's included in that conversation because he's been around for a minute, obviously has a huge catalog, and has a lot of respect in the game. We would never dispute or try to downplay Kirk Franklin's talent and even his production skills. All of the things that he has built over time are unquestionable, undeniable. This man is truly gifted. He's blessed to be able to do the things he can do and write the songs he writes. All of that stuff is never in dispute. The thing that happens when you're dealing with Kirk Franklin is the decision making that always leaves us scratching our heads and wondering if this is truly God honoring. So let's read a little bit more of this. It says Franklin has had an exceptional career for which he has won many awards, including winning BET's Best Gospel Inspirational Award, a record-breaking 8 times. But he again felt honored when he took to the stage at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles to accept an award that celebrates decades of groundbreaking contributions to music, entertainment, advocacy, and community impact. So this was just a quick overview of, the award ceremony and Kirk winning that award. Now, that obviously has not been the controversy, okay? If you have been on social media, Christian social media, for the last few days, you will definitely know that there has been some controversy that involves him, but it is not directly tied like it's not him who's the perpetrator in a sense, but he is the perpetrator. So let's let's get into it, man. So GloRilla, okay. If we can recall, we did a video on this channel. You can check that out, or I'll leave the link in the description somewhere for you, where we reported that Kirk Franklin did a song with GloRilla, who is a female rapper and who is on the rise. And she did a recent album. I guess that was may have been last year, early this year. I get kind of lost in time at some points here, but she did an album and featured Kirk Franklin on it. Okay. Now, for that performance, she was granted basically what is the equivalent of the Best Gospel Artist Award. Okay. So you're talking about a secular artist who's not just secular, but her music is raunchy, vulgar, and truly just debaucherous music that she makes. But because she had this one gospel song on her project, she ends up winning the award. So let's kind of bring up a little bit of info on that. So you got here, this is the young lady right here, GloRilla, with some friends there. Of course, Kirk is in the background, smiling, very proud about the work that he did on her project there. And so this little note here, I'll just read it for y'all. It's pretty small. It says, GloRilla Center accepts the award for the Dr. Bobby Jones Best Gospel Inspirational Award for Rain Down on Me during the BET Awards on Monday, June 9, 2025. So this was the award that she took home. Okay. Now let's just listen to what she had to say when she got the award. Of course, we can't really show visuals of the BET Awards. They always come after people for that kind of stuff. But let's just listen to what she said when she received this award.
First of all, I want to thank God, because this is a gospel award, huh? This is my first BET Awards, even though I've been here 3 years to get nominated 6 times, 8 times. It's a blessing to get the gospel award first, because I owe it all to God. Shout out to BET too. I love BET too. Shout out to Kirk Franklin. I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of scared to ask him for a feature on this song because y'all know how I be rapping. But I was like, oh my God, when he said yes, I was so excited. I had this song in the bar for so long. Shout out to Maverick City, Kiara Sherd. Don't mind my accent, don't laugh at me. And Shannon Lamore, and shout out to God. And shout out to my mama. My mama, shout out to my mama, my dad, and my Uncle Johnny, Tammy. Shout out to Memphis, shout out to White Dog. I got my White Dog members up here. And shout out to God, I love y'all. Let go.
All right, so that was GloRilla accepting this prestigious award. And yeah, I mean, never I would never knock her for kind of like the way she speaks or anything like that. I mean, everybody's from different places, and her accent's pretty cool. I got no problems with that whatsoever. But the messaging in her thanks, right? The messaging in her thanks just simply reveals that she is not, obviously she's not a Christian. We know that from the fruit of her music and all that stuff. But her idea of God is not very deep at all. That's what you can get from her thanks that she gives there. Because she's almost like, wow. I mean, I guess because they know in advance that they're being nominated, right? So she knows she's being nominated and she's got that knowledge beforehand. But no speech prepared, anything that would really give like a reverent message for receiving the speech and speaking of God in a really positive way. It's just more like shout out to God. That's all she had to say was just shout out to God. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's about it. Thanks her mama, thanks everybody else, and shout out to God. Now, I mean, this is what you're dealing with. I mean, so the real issue here, again, as we go back to it, I never have, when we look at these kind of collaborations, I never have an issue with the unsaved secular artist. I never have an issue with them because they're just doing what they do and they're operating within their normal realm of existence and their realm of understanding and within their worldview. The person that I always have an issue with when we deal with these sort of things is the Christian artist. And Kirk Franklin has repeatedly done stuff that makes you scratch your head. Okay, so in this instance, and again, I'll leave the link in the video in the description here for you to watch the previous video I reported on this. He knows everything that this lady is about. He knows everything that she's about and still brings her on, still collaborates with her, gets with her on this project. And we fail to see what kind of impact this has on the listeners and what is essentially this does for the broader conversation of artists like her hopping on these songs with Kirk Franklin. Now, there's a brother named Keith from, I believe it's Hold the Line Ministries. Okay, so shout out to Keith. We're going to go ahead and play this clip, and I'm going to come back and discuss what he said, because I think that his thoughts on this are really helpful in this conversation. So let's go ahead and check this out.
So GloRilla wins Gospel Song of the Year. Yeah. BET Awards. I didn't catch it. I seen it on my news feed this morning, and I got to make a video. And I don't think everybody knows. You're going to know how dangerous GloRilla and like Cardi B's and Nicki Minaj, these female artists that are so raunchy, you're going to know, if you're a young person, you're going to know years down the road how dangerous these ladies are. And I know because years and years ago in the 80s, I used to listen to Luke Skywalker and the 2 Live Crew. And it was basically word corn for my ears. And it sexualized us, and you know what I mean? All of us were singing it. We were in like the 6th grade. You know what I mean? There were some real raunchy songs. If you're from my era, you would know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Now, I didn't know how dangerous it was back then. All that filth in my ears and all that debauchery. I had no idea. And my people didn't have the wherewithal or the understanding to know what I was going through. Because back in my days, your people went to work and left you home. You was left to your own devices, you know what I mean? Especially like during the summertime or after school. Ain't nobody around, so you're listening to what you want to listen to. And I think that was an error on their part. And now here we are years and years and years later, the same game plan the music industry's been using for years, they're still using it. But that now the faces just changed. The game is the same. The faces changed. It's not Luke Skywalker no more, or the 69 Boys. Now it's the GloRillas. Now it's the Nicki Minaj's, the Cardi B's, and a plethora of other young ladies willing to do anything in the world to get to the position those women have. And what you have with these BET Awards and this award going to GloRilla is just simply the music industry trolling Christians. Because most of these people that listen to GloRilla and say that they're Christians are carnal. They're going to the club Friday. They're going to the club Saturday. They might show up once a month to the church house on Sunday. They're going to stamp Jesus on it. There's not a battle in their life. They're living however they want. When they pray, they're going to pray for abundance and they're going to pray for blessings. They're never going to pray for repentance or anything of that sort, because it's all about them. It's all about self. It's all about what they can get. It's all about my blessings. Man, you're blocking my blessings. I'm blessed. Girl, I'm in abundance. Whatever.
All right, man. So that is Keith there, giving his thoughts on the situation, man. And listen, he said a lot of good things in there. And I think that we can definitely consider the greater message in there, right? The greater message in there. And I think that what he really hit on that made me think about this is how the generation, like, you don't know, like, and he talked about 2 Live Crew. So, I mean, I'm, from that era. Okay. So it's like, I understand what he's talking about, 2 Live Crew and all the other stuff we had. I mean, we had like Too Short back in the days. This is the dudes that were just doing crazy, like stuff that was pretty, sort of graphic sexual music, right, being made. And this stuff wasn't, to be honest with you, I guess because of the access to broadcasting, and MTV was what played the music videos, or other video outlets were who played the music videos. There wasn't really room to do as stuff that is as uncensored as you actually have today, which could just be a music video with both, cursing and, more sort of revealing or exposed people in the videos, which is something that's more prevalent today and easier to do because artists have their own pages and all that kind of stuff. But from that era, man, you don't see, as he said, you don't see how, as you get older, those things affect you. Like, they actually shape the way you look at. So from a guy's perspective, there is definitely a way where you're influenced to not even know it, that you're kind of objectifying women, looking at them in a particular way as just objects, and you're not at all. There's nothing about, of course, the image of God in them, nothing like that. It is a pursuit of you trying to woo women and all this kind of stuff, right? And that is taught through the music, and it's made to look cool through the music. Now, not to say that the sinful heart of a man is not able to generate these kind of evil all by itself, but this music is shaping people's minds. Okay, the music is shaping people's minds, and in this case, if you have a young lady like GloRilla doing music where 90% of the album is raunchy stuff and it's all kinds of nonsense, and then you have the one gospel song on there, and if for that one gospel song, the moment where you mention God, you can win an award, the highest honor of award in that category, that is a terrible message that's being sent to young women today and young people today. Because all that says at the end of the day is that you can get the right hand of fellowship from a so-called gospel legend or an icon, and that this right hand of fellowship that you receive allows you to now step into that space, and all you have to do is give some sort of vague acknowledgement of God or a need for God that is really just like God coming to fix your problems, really. And you could do all of that, never have to repent, never have to truly believe in Christ and turn from your sins and to walk in holiness, never have to do that. And if you just do this bare minimum here and just say the right things at the right time with the right people beside you, then you're okay. That's basically the message that gets sent when this happens and you get someone like GloRilla winning this award. And so there has definitely been outrage from this whole thing. Okay, if you go on TikTok, there's a whole bunch of videos of people voicing their displeasure about that. And also within the gospel industry, there is an individual who it's crazy when you find people who you just don't rock with. Okay, you don't rock with because they themselves are compromised, but then they say something that is quite on point. And in this instance, it was Dietrich Haddon who did have some interesting things to say about that. Now, we're not going to let him off the hook because we're still going to display how he's not the best messenger for this, but he did have his comments which were somewhat useful to this conversation. Now, before we move on, I just want to check out some of the comments here. Definitely want to shout y'all out. Kyle said, all those she mentioned, she marked and boycotted, put more pressure on Kirk and the crew than her. Buddy said, so shout out to Buddy. So the question is Kirk a Christian artist? That's a very good question. He was asked by a host not to twerk. Exactly. To the point where Kevin Hart was making fun of him. And this was just a joke that everybody knew about. Okay. That they don't front twerk. Okay. We'll probably try to play that as well. Emmanuel E. Shout out to Emmanuel. Kirk wanted to be a secular artist and not a gospel singer. Man, I think he just wants to be a legend and to be relevant forever. As he said, he has a problem with being forgotten. He never wants to be forgotten. That's one of his greatest fears. So he wants to remain relevant forever. Shout out to Berean Babes. Greetings, greetings, greetings. All right, and the redeemed creation, it is just another Trojan horse to snare a carnal-minded believer. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that this is what you're seeing here as we see this kind of music be promoted. And BT, they know what they're doing. They absolutely know what they're doing. All right, so let's go ahead and play this Dietrich Haddon clip, and then we'll come back on the other end of that.
The gospel music industry needs an overhaul, period. After last night's show, it's an indicator that we just need a complete reset. Like what are we doing? Are we allowing this to happen over and over again and wonder why the gospel music industry is dying? Come on, man. In order to have something different, you have to do something different. So we need people in the room that know gospel music, that's in the trenches of gospel music, that's advocating for the genre as a whole and not one particular person. It's already a small genre. So it's hard for us to watch the Dr. Bobby Jones Gospel Award being given to somebody that's not in our space, right? No disrespect to the artist, but that's not the space she's in. And so it makes it discouraging, disappointing, and it takes the wind out of all of it. And we wonder why gospel music is dying. It's because we're doing things like that. Well, on top of that is we're tired. Nobody will say this, but I will. Of seeing the same people being celebrated year after year. Like there is nobody else in gospel music. Like no one else is working. You cannot just give it to one person as if they're the ones that's keeping it going. No. We're done with that. Last night was a great win for the ratings for BET. I give certain people awards for ratings, but it was not a win for the gospel music industry. We got to do better. So I propose let's start something where we can come together and have someone advocating for the genre that have no other motive and agenda in the room but to elevate the gospel music genre as a whole. That's what I feel.
All right, so that's Mr. Haddon there expressing his thoughts over there. Now, yeah, he said some interesting things there. He did say that it's difficult to see that award go to somebody who's not even in the space. And that has been really the whole thing, right? Everybody's like, okay, so how did this happen? Where did BT miss the memo that she is not really a gospel artist? Well, I think that this was deliberate. I think they knew what they were doing. I think that her winning this award, we talked about that just previously, what it signifies and the messaging that it gives to the world. I don't think that that's a mistake on the part of BET. They knew what they were doing. I mean, there's an idea of trying to make things as inclusive and lowering the bar for what it means to follow God in culture anyway. And that is a huge thing. Now, the thing about Dietrich Haddon being the one who is the messenger of this whole thing is that he himself has done things that have actually undermined the integrity of the music in the sense where you're talking about God, but your lifestyle and the things that you're portraying are actually in contradiction to God's word. And so he's done that repeatedly. There's more than one instance of Dietrich Haddon doing that. And at the heart of this thing is where you realize that these guys, whether it's Dietrich Haddon, whether it's Tasha Cobbs Leonard, all these people who have done stuff with secular artists and all of that, at the heart of the issue is that there is a lack of the true fear of the Lord. That's really what it is. That's what's at the heart. That's what's eating gospel music up. That is what's eating CCM up. That is what is eating CHH in certain areas, is where there's a departure from just being holy. There's a departure from saying that, okay, we want to honor God in all that we do, and our music is just a representation of us, but it is not, it's not everything. Okay, it's not everything. Like you don't just get a check mark for writing a good song that sounds like you're worshiping God. Like the Lord is not impressed with your lyricism, your musical talent, none of that. I mean, he gave you the ability to do that. He's not impressed with it, right? What pleases God is when you take those things and submit them fully to His will, but then your life as well. Your life as well must exhibit the fruit of the Holy Spirit, the fruit of God actually having changed your heart, and now you're walking in holiness. That must be displayed in your life. But we don't see that in the lives of many of these artists, and Dietrich is included in that. So this right here is a screenshot from an older video I did. And you see that this screenshot here is actually from one of his music videos. Now, this is completely unnecessary. Okay, he's trying to tell a story in the music video about being lured away from, by being enticed by women and sin and whatever it is, right? And he has this lady in here and, very exposed in the video, blurred out here, but very exposed in the video. And this is Dietrich Haddon here. So the same guy who's turning around and saying, oh, gospel music, we got to do better. This is the kind of stuff that he puts out. And he'll do stuff like this, and people will do stuff like this and generally tell you that this is how, they keep it real when they tell a story. Like, no, we got to make it look real. We got to listen. You can explain things without having to resort to this kind of stuff. Like you don't get a pass as a Christian. You don't get a pass to be unholy at some point just to make a point or just to keep it real. Like you don't get a pass to do that. Okay. And so whatever you need to do to improve your writing skills or your communication skills to make this more, to make it easier for you to convey your message without compromising, you need to do that. Otherwise, just don't do it because the Lord is not pleased with that. Okay. We also have, of course, the video of him and his wife. Okay. And this was at his 50th birthday. And y'all have seen this by now, but let's go ahead and bring this up. Okay. And there was a whole lot of dancing, a whole lot of, twerking, all that stuff was happening. This is at his 50th birthday. And not only did this man, defend all of this stuff, but he made anybody who questioned him sound like they are just extremely self-righteous, judgmental people. Okay. That is what he did. And this is what you get with Dietrich Haddon. If you recall, if you ever saw Preachers of LA, then you see that he actually impregnates his second wife out of wedlock and doesn't tell the pastor, one of the other pastors who's doing his wedding, that she was pregnant at the time. And then afterwards, when the pastor finds out, questions him, asks him like, yo, why didn't you tell me? Because I'm not sure I would have done the wedding if if you had mentioned that. And then Dietrich is completely indignant about that. He is like, how could you be so self-righteous? Did you not, sleep with your wife before you got married and this, that, and the third? And he's just excusing his sin and saying that he's being judged and that is just completely wrong and just basically the religious spirit-ism, okay? That's basically what he threw out to the other pastor when he was questioned about that. And so back to the main point, that these guys want to live in a certain way, that there is a carnal sort of lifestyle. And you got to be careful with using that term carnal Christian because it's not a biblical term, right? Let's just be honest. Like a carnal Christian is not a biblical term. A Christian is not carnal, okay? Can a Christian do things within their flesh? Yes, but the category of carnal Christian is actually one that is more of a product of faulty theology. When you look at things like, say, free grace theology and this debate about lordship salvation versus what you essentially have to just call easy believism. And that's where that comes from. It's where you're creating a third category where someone is not, lost, but they're not a Christian who's walking and displaying fruit at the same time. They're just somebody who made some profession of faith, and now their lives are looking quite messy. But that person is still a Christian simply because he made verbal assent to believing in Christ. So that's really where that carnal Christian terminology comes from. And so at times we got to be careful about that. I know most people, when they use it, they don't mean it in that way. But yeah, so in that sense, when I say carnal, I'm talking about like straight up, debaucherous and likely not a believer. Okay, so let's just put it that way to make it a little lighter. So that's what it is. Now, while there is a lot of, outrage about all of these things and outrage about the BT Awards and all this stuff, we again have to just go to the source of it. And it's a departure from just a devotion to God's word. That's really what it is, man. There's a departure from that. And this is just the fruit of that. It's honestly just the fruit of that, where we finally reached a point where a secular artist who is super, and we're not talking about like some, conscious rapper or something like that. We're talking about a secular artist who's quite vulgar can win a prestigious gospel music award. And that's where we're at, because the bar has been lowered so low by the Christian industry that this is now acceptable. And now it's kind of like the house has to be on fire sometimes for people to realize that they got to do something that they need to get out. And that's sort of what you're witnessing here, where it's finally the culmination of all this foolishness that's been happening, manifesting in this moment where GloRilla is winning this award, and now people are outraged, but they did it to themselves. That's really what the Christian, the gospel music industry has done. And I mean, I gotta say, man, because you see this in so many ways, man. You see how it's the content, it's the lack of theology, just sound theology in the music. Like nobody even cares about that. Nobody even cares. There's one gospel song that I saw the other day, man. It just kind of popped up on my feed. Man, I wish I remember the title, but it was, beautiful music, of course. But it was like this song about God being, when you look at the trees, that's God. When you look at something else, that's God. When you look at this, that's God. And it's like, wait a minute. So you're saying that God is in creation. He's in creation. Like he's manifesting himself through creation, which is pantheism. Okay. That's just pantheism. That's not Christian at all. Okay. And this song was like playing on the radio. I know it was a popular song, and it pops up on my feed, and I'm like, this is theologically, this is garbage. This is complete garbage. But this is the kind of stuff that is being promoted. So you have a lack of sound theological music. You have a lack of people walking in integrity and holiness in their lives, right? You have that too. And then you have these unholy alliances with the world that are blatantly misleading folks as well. So that is the issue with this GloRilla situation. And at the end of the day, people may be crying about it, but that's what it is. And we shouldn't be surprised because it's been coming for a while now. Let me get to the chats real quick over here, man. So Kyle said, time for us to draw the line with these compromising gospel artists. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's if you're still listening to some of these folks and you know that they're like badly compromised, you also got to check your own heart, because there may be some idolatry there where you're unwilling to let go. I know a lot of people have that sort of instinct when it comes to Hillsong and Bethel and elevation music, all this stuff. There's folks who you could tell them all the things you need to tell them about Bethel and elevation and all this stuff, and they'll admit with you. They will admit that these guys are false teachers. They'll 100% agree with you, but they'll be like, well, I think the Lord is still pleased when I sing these songs, or find some other way of justification, as though God needs their worship to be pleased and to be glorified. Like he does not. God is glorified. God is he's worthy of true worship only, and only accepts true worship from a heart that is submitted to him. Okay, he doesn't. There's no. I mean, you can ask Nadab and Abihu how it goes when you do things that don't accord to how God has laid out for us, right? We see how God handles these things. Read Isaiah chapter 1, see how he feels about people and their offerings and all these things, that the Lord really abhors that people bring worship to him that is not pleasing to him. But yet, folks will be like, yo, we need, I need this music, or I'm holding on to this music, and it's good for me to listen to it because it's still praising God when God is not pleased with where it's coming from. So that's a completely really bad thing for people to be clinging on to. But he said, to them, it's Jesus plus twerk. It's a get out of hell free card. Man, oh man, oh man. That is absolutely what it is. That is absolutely what it is. Jesus plus twerk. Do whatever you want to do. You could have a little Jesus in your life, but do whatever you want to do, and you'll be A-okay. And these collaborations only reinforce that kind of messaging. Kirk definitely wants to convince the world. Emmanuel said, gospel music is dying because we can no longer tell the difference between a gospel artist and a secular artist. Yeah, secular artists winning a gospel song of the year is funny to me. There's something like humorous about that. There is something humorous about that, because it's like, man, like where were all the other folks, man? Where were all the other gospel artists when this was happening? And that's the part where I agree with Dietrich Haddon about that, where it's like, man, like y'all couldn't find someone else, really? Like, there's people who do this. They've been doing this for years, and they really are believers, but they're not being honored in any way, shape, or form. And that's a problem. That is clearly a problem. So yeah, this whole thing is a messed up situation. William Brown, thanks, William. Thanks for joining us. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Yes, Lecrae, Kirk, and Tasha Cobbs help lower that bar. Absolutely. I mean, the list is long, man. The list is long. I mean, so listen, just think of like some of the most popular gospel artists that you can think of, and even in recent times, the stuff that we've seen them do. So let's just start with Marvin Sapp, who is, honestly, this dude should not be preaching to anybody, okay? He should just stick to the music, because it's one of those things where when you open your mouth, you don't seem as wise anymore. And that's Marvin Sapp, because close the doors for the 40 G's. This is the man who never should have made it, okay? So a iconic gospel song, like something that is gonna stand the test of time, truly, because of how musically good it is. But this is the dude that is telling a congregation somewhere to close the door so they can get the 40 G's, right? And a bunch of other nonsense theology. So that is Marvin Sapp. Then you have Dante Bowe, okay? You got Maverick City. In recent times, just the last 12 months or whatever, think about what has gone down with these folks, okay? To the point where there was boycotting of some of their shows because of the stuff that they were doing. The African tour, there was a huge movement on TikTok to start not go to their events because these guys were living in compromise, like 100%. Tasha Cobbs, we mentioned her, did the collab with Nicki Minaj like it was nothing, okay? Again, God needs these secular artists for the gospel to spread, apparently. It's utterly ridiculous. It's just complete and utter nonsense. So, yeah, with that, man, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. Definitely appreciate all of y'all being here. It is absolutely strange indeed. Shift gears a little bit. This is just more of a little gospel music coverage here that we're doing tonight. And so we're going to move over to this story of Michael Tait. All right. So for those who are unaware, yes, another video we did, so I'm not going to rehash the information over again. I'll leave the link in the description for y'all. But real briefly, Michael Tait was he stepped down. He is the front man for the group Newsboys. Okay, so he stepped down just before their tour, and he stepped down after an individual who called him out made a statement on Twitter saying that he was in the closet and that he's been doing living a gay lifestyle for years, and that everybody knows about it. And it's like literally the day after that, Michael Tait announced that he was stepping down from the Newsboys right before the tour. So that already caused a lot of suspicion. Now, I was not going to report on it until there was more news on it. It's something that I had kind of been following because, again, you know, I have an interest and, you know, a love for Christian music. You know, I have love for Christian music. And hearing that was like, okay, let's see what happens. And then, sure enough, the story came out. And a lady named Jessica, a reporter, had done this, you know, really great job of reporting. Jessica Morris is her name. And then it ended up dropping on the Royce Report. And I know that, yeah, when we say the Royce Report, man, for some of us, like we know that, okay, yeah, Julie Royce can be good on certain things, but then on certain things, man, you don't know. It just seems like she got an axe to grind on some of it. And so we know that already. But she ended up, Jessica ended up releasing it through that because obviously it's a platform that people are watching and listening to when it's this kind of stuff. So let's actually go into an interview that she did, Jessica Morris, talking about this on, it's called CHVN Radio. I will leave the link for you to check them out and subscribe if you'd like to. I don't know all of their stuff, but it does seem that they're solid believers. If you find otherwise, then don't take this as an endorsement, but I do want to acknowledge because we're using their material that's where it came from. So let's go ahead and bring this in. Okay. So it's going to come in right where they ask her kind of like about the process a little bit. So let's go ahead and bring that in.
To me, we keep hearing stories about this person and no one's doing anything about it. Can you do anything about it as a journalist? And so I said, what evidence do you have? What sources? Who is willing to talk? I trusted this person, and so they referred me onto a few people, and I started digging in and found that there was a lot to uncover, sadly, about Michael Tait, and that's when the story came across my table. So it's been 2.5 years now.
2.5 years, such a slow process, but obviously with allegations this serious, it does have to be pretty slow going. You have to check a lot of sources and affirm what you're hearing from people. A lot of our readers and listeners are shocked. I know on the Roy's Report, watching the Facebook comments, a lot of people shocked. How did you approach the seriousness of these claims and the responsibility of sharing these victims' claims then?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I appreciate it. There were two sides to it. I think one was immediately to go, if people are sharing these stories with me as survivors, as victims, I want to hold space for them and their story and hear the facts that they're sharing with me and recognize any pain that they're feeling, but also celebrating their recovery, because lots of these people have gone through a lot of trauma recovery. The second part is then holding space for the fact that Michael Tait is such... It feels like an understatement to say he's such an influential name in Christian music. He is so loved, both by people, but there are people in Christian music in the industry who adore him, as well as fans and people across the world. He has played a pivotal role in people's faith and making music with both DC Talk and Newsboys. So I knew that holding these two things together, if I had enough truth and evidence to make me and believe that these stories about Tait were true, these alleged stories were true, holding those two things together was really difficult, because it meant I had to meet them in the middle. And yeah, so it was about going, how do I take that journey, recognizing what is true, while also holding a space that this man has a lot of sway in Christian music for multiple reasons.
Now, I guess we should remind people these are still allegations. They haven't been proven in a court case, right? But it wasn't like you just took 3 people's word for it and published this, right? Tell us a little bit about how many people you interviewed and how you went about that process. And you obviously believe these people once you've published the.
All right, man. Yeah. So just coming real quick there. So, I mean, I think there's always a question of the integrity of the people who are doing the reporting when these things kind of come out, and we want to find out what's their motivation. And overall, when I saw this interview, I was pleased to see that Jessica's motivation is not like, okay, she's just trying to tear down the church. And that was refreshing because oftentimes it can be that. And we're going to look at somebody, again, like the guy who accused Michael Tait, who is not a believer and all this kind of stuff. And you see this motivation is completely different for exposing them. But that was refreshing to see. And also how meticulous the process of her actually trying to gather this information was. Okay, so this stuff has been going on since 2022 when she first heard about all this stuff. So this is now 2025, 3 years later, is when we're getting this actual report done. So she did a thorough job, it seems, on actually getting this information, man. So let's go ahead and listen to a little bit more of this.
What you've been told.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have over 50 sources, and I know that without stating names, that feels like she chose a number out of thin air. The reason there are so many sources is because I've been doing this for so long, and so I think I started with about six potential stories. Not all of them have been published. Not all of them. Some of them ended up being dead leaks. I started with six, and people would then refer me on to their friends saying they can fill you in on a background story. There is more here, and so the process in that is basically going to each source and asking them not only what your story is, but who can corroborate it. So who did you tell immediately after the event or as close to the event as possible? Did you file a police report? Are there medical reports? Are there text messages? Are there photos? And you have to pull as much of that as possible to then go, is this credible? And ultimately it came down to the fact that the three reports that alleged reports that we shared of this alleged behavior with Tait, they all match the same pattern of behavior over and over. All of these men were 22 at the time, which was bizarre, but was just a fact that came across the table. And they all happened in similar instances. And I was hearing enough corroborating reports off record from sources to tell me that people weren't surprised by this. So that is why basically we went there. And then in addition to my fact checking, this was fact checked by the Reuters report because they knew that legally they had to make sure this was backed. And I'm also, as an Australian, I have held to legal standards in both Australia and now the United States for this. I'm also held to two different journalistic code of conducts, both in Australia with my own media union and in America with the Society of Professional Journalists. And I also have my own code of conduct. So there's multiple things where I'm aware that as a Christian and a Jesus follower, I want to act with integrity. I want to do a good job as a journalist, but I also am held to legal and ethical standards that I have to be willing to uphold, which is why this took so long.
You mentioned your.
All right, so yeah, man, that is that clip there, man. I mean, so again, thorough process of her doing this investigation. I mean, she mentioned she had over 50 sources, man, 50 sources when she was doing this whole investigation. And so this was not just something that was put together, and she's held to, as she said, American journalistic standards and Australian. There's things that she has to do, ethics she has to follow as a journalist. And so all of this came together, and she released this report that was essentially a bombshell. Now, we kept on hearing, man, that, folks kind of knew that this was happening, right? So it's like, okay, people are aware of this story. And so it was like, okay, who knew? Okay, who knew? And did the band just turn a blind eye? Because that was the thing that people kept saying. And I think is a suspicion to many of us, man, is that how much did the band actually know? Now, we know that Adam Agee, one of the guys, released a statement, and don't have it up here in front of me today, but it was a statement that he made on Twitter, essentially saying that they would hear things and they would ask Michael Tait about it, but he would always flat out deny. And so they never could kind of pin him down. And that was the story that he told. Now, if you watch now Truth and Spirit Network, man, some good reporting on this topic here. I'll leave the link for y'all in here. A lot of links for y'all to check out. Link in here for y'all to check out, man. And he did something over there on that channel talking about this. In fact, they mentioned, first of all, how there's a history of this in the Newsboys, where the first lead singer actually left because of drug and alcohol abuse as well. There was no SA allegations with him, but actually what there was adultery with him. where he was essentially a drunkard, and he was on different types of drugs, and he was doing this just to cope with the pressures of being a superstar and all of that stuff. And then other women came into the picture as well. And so that was interesting to learn, because that was the first I ever heard of that there's a history of this with the Newsboys. So you got to think that there were guys who were there at that time when that dude was there, and now the same dudes are here seeing Michael Tait. And man, we never heard about the first guy, never heard anything real about the first guy. And now, did y'all have information about this dude and never said anything? So that's kind of the gist of it. But let me bring up this clip here, and let's check this out.
Years traveling from city to city, performing, spending time together behind the scenes. So the question has to be asked, were the band members truly blind to what was happening, or did they turn a blind eye because the money, the fame, and the success were just too good to risk losing? I'll tell you right now, when the stakes are as high as they were for the Newsboys, when your livelihood, your brand, your entire career is built on maintaining a certain image, there's a lot of pressure to ignore things that threaten to tear that image apart. The idea that the band was completely innocent in all of this, it just doesn't add up. People are already calling for the band to be held fully accountable. They've been complicit in allowing this to go on for so long. And you know what? That's fair. Michael Tait might want to protect the band. He might want to shield them from the fallout of his actions, because let's face it, if the truth about their collective negligence came out, the money, the tours, the fame, they'd all be at risk. It's the sad reality of the music industry. No one wants to ruin the perfect image, especially when that image is worth so much. So Michael, in his attempt to protect the band, is doing exactly what so many people in his position do. He's protecting the money train. He's trying to keep things going so that the band can continue making money, selling records, and touring. It's all about the bottom line. At the end of the day, we need to stop idolizing these people. We need to stop placing them on pedestals and pretending like they're immune to the pressures and struggles that affect everyone else. Just because someone is a Christian celebrity doesn't mean they're above making mistakes or acting in ways that are harmful to themselves and others. The reality is, when you're in a band like Newsboys, surrounded by all that money and fame, the temptation to cover things up, to pretend everything is fine, is overwhelming. And let's be honest, Michael's confession, while important, is also a way to protect the band and keep the machine running. Because without the band, without the success, there is no money.
Man. Yeah. So, man, that was an interesting take on that. And I had not considered all of what he was saying here. And this is somebody who's obviously followed them and knows a lot about the Newsboys, man. But, man, if that's the case, if that is the case, that this confession that Michael Tait released was one to somewhat, clean things up, to remove maybe some of the vitriol and the heat from the band and the negativity that they're facing, and the cancellation that they're facing because nobody wants to, bring them on or whatever it is. And secondly, that he was trying to protect essentially the bottom line, trying to keep the money machine rolling for them. And mind you, if the songs get played, if all that happens, there's still revenue coming. Okay. So there's still revenue coming, even if Tait is sitting down. If he's listed on the publishing, he's still getting something. So are they doing that? Did he do that essentially to keep the money machine rolling? And that is a heck of a thought right there. That's a heck of a thought. It's difficult to think that these guys didn't know anything, though. It's really, really hard to think that these guys had no clue what was going on, man. It may be one of those things where, like, stuff is going on and you kind of choose to not see it. It may be that, man, because to me, I just don't see as though like they had no knowledge of it, especially if we're saying that people knew that it was treated as though it was Nashville's worst kept secret, that folks it was just common knowledge. So, man, I don't know, man. That's a tough one to sell, that these guys just did not know anything about it. Kyle said, I wasn't shocked at all. These situations are becoming too common. Sadly, it is, man. Agreed, there's a pattern of behavior in the allegations, and the victims were not in contact with each other. Yes, that's a very good point, Thrifty. Jessica Morris actually said they didn't know. Like, she didn't tell them that, yo, there's this many people, whatever it is. They didn't know. They found out later that there was that many people involved, and the stories were all the same. As we're going to hear in this clip that I'm about to play, it's pretty dark stuff, man. William says, at 41, don't have much of a problem with what's going on. I believe it is God showing us that Christians shouldn't have stars or idols, period. So the exposure, he is teaching us that he alone is the one to worship. Yeah, he's the one to worship. One of the victims said he idolized Tait as a child, and when he became a musician, he was flattered that Tait, took interest in him and ignored red flags. Man, yeah, that's definitely the report is just, it's crazy, man. When you read it, it's real crazy. Yes, again, yeah, we need to stop idolizing them. Get more excited to see one of them in concert. Man, then we are to join with our brethren worshiping the Lord. Listen, I mean, this is what it comes down to, is like what really is true worship, right? What is true worship? Is it just because there's thousands of people in the stadium? Do we call that worship? It's not, it's not if where it's coming from and the heart behind it is not pleasing to the Lord. Absolutely not. So let's go ahead and check out, there's the guy who outed him. Now, for some reason, his name has just kind of escaped me, but this is the guy who made the original statement about Michael Tait, and it was, he kind of broke the news, but this dude is not a believer, and it seems that he has maybe even a problem with Michael Tait being, having gone to the White House and prayed for President Trump and all of that other stuff. So it looks like there's some political motivation as well in why he sort of outed Tait as well. But let's just hear what he has to say in this clip.
Another day, and Newsboys has not dropped their lawsuit, so we're going to release more Michael Tait stories, shall we? For those of you who need to play catch-up, on January 15th, I outed the former lead singer of the Newsboys and DC Talk, Michael Tait. He was probably the most famous Christian artist. On January 16th, he resigned from the Newsboys as the lead singer. Then multiple people came forward credible essay allegations. I reported that on TikTok as well. And then investigative reporter Jessica Miller released her 2.5-year investigation with the Roy's report detailing Michael Tait's abuse and grooming for over 2 decades. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And they are suing people who have spoken out regarding Michael Tait's departure because the Newsboys did not want anybody talking about it. So, because they have not dropped their lawsuit yet, and I'm asking you to share this video demanding that they drop their lawsuit, we're going to release some more Michael Tait stories. Let's begin.
I unfortunately have to cover my face because of the fact that the CCM industry and those that are within it are a lot more powerful than you think they are. This is coming from a point that this man has ruined my life. This man has ruined others' lives. I do not wish ill will on him, but I do wish justice on him. I am 38 years old today. I have known this man since I was 17. So that is 21 years. Previous to back in my day, this man snuck me into bars to drink alcohol, way underage, but on top of that, would drug me. And unfortunately, multiple times, I woke up.
Oh, my bad, y'all. Let me bring that back in. Bring that back in.
Hi, I'm the guy that outed Michael Tait. Another day, and Newsboys has not
Ill will on him, but I do wish justice on him. I am 38 years old today. I have known this man since I was 17. So that is 21 years. Previous to back in my day, this man snuck me into bars to drink alcohol. Way underage. But on top of that, would drug me. And unfortunately, multiple times, I woke up being by this man, meaning Michael Tait. I am not the only one. I have other friends who have also been sexually by this man, where they woke up with, after being drugged, meaning he took drugs and put them in their drink, and they were unconscious, just like I went through.
Yeah, man. So that was the clip right there. So I mean, it starts off with the guy who I said outed him, and then that testimony from one of the alleged victims, man, the accusers, man, in this situation, and that is some pretty wild stuff, man. That's pretty wild stuff, pretty dark to drug somebody and then to drug somebody and then to do that stuff to them while they're not in a position to defend themselves or refuse or give whatever it is. And then of course we're dealing with the whole fact that this is a man doing this to another man, right? So we're dealing with that as well, as far as us being believers, right? So we know that there's multiple layers where this just ain't it, right? And so it's terrible to hear this guy talk about that and still be affected by it years later, because stuff like that does affect you if you don't get a chance to speak about it, heal from it, that sort of thing. I mean, these things are terrible, and we want, definitely. I'm glad to hear in the previous clip that I played that most of the guys who were involved in this were victims of Tait, have gone on to, have families and all of this stuff. So they have somehow moved on. And it looks like a lot of them are still believers from what I gather there, which is encouraging to see. But man, I mean, that's the level of darkness we're dealing with here is it's a lot, man. It's a lot. The repentance and the confession that came forth, a lot of people did applaud Michael Tait for that, and how the wording of that and the posture of that. Even on CBN, I saw that they were like, "Man, this is the way to do it." I think I saw something on X where Mike Winger had at first said this is dope repentance, and then later he rescinded that. He took out his tweet and said, "Hey, man, I'm kind of getting more information, so I'm not giving the full endorsement to this repentance right now." So there is that. But all in all, man, I truly hope that he has repented, because we know the blood of Christ is able to wash away our sins. But has he truly repented? Did the pattern reveal that, he really wasn't, with the Lord? It's just perplexing. All of it is very perplexing. But ultimately, man, we do hope that the parties who were affected by it are able to heal from everything. And then we do hope that Michael himself repents, man. Now, the thing is, as that guy mentioned in the clip here, that it seems like the Newsboys or their management or somebody was sort of trying to suppress this news, man. And that is some foul stuff if that was going on. If they were trying to control the narrative, because another storyline from all this is how people keep saying how big the CCM machine is and how you don't want to come against it. Okay, that there are labels investing millions of dollars in these artists, and the last thing that you want to do is try to come out and expose somebody and mess with their money. And so that they will do whatever it takes. And sadly, it seems that some folks who are supposedly Christians will do whatever it takes to protect their brand because they can't be losing no money. So, this guy that we saw said something to that effect that there was a lawsuit. So I hope that is gone. I hope that lawsuit has been dropped, and I hope there's no suppression of people speaking out. It kind of reminded me of the Daystar stuff when they started trying to muzzle people, which was crazy. So man, I hope that wasn't the case. And if there was, I hope they realized that was just a bad look. Now let's see the second video from the guy who was the exposer here.
Hi, I'm the guy that outed Michael Tait on January 15th, and he resigned on January 16th, and then the Roy's report came out last week, and now Michael Tait has confessed. A confession is not full accountability. It's a good first step, but it's not full accountability. The Newsboys need to take account for their part in it and knowing all these years. Wes Campbell needs to own his part in knowing and covering and trying to bury people financially and socially all these years. Yeah, there's more to this story. This is not full accountability. Do not get caught up in the emotions of Michael Tait's confession. It's the bare minimum. Bare minimum. Good job, Michael Tait. I'm glad you're getting help. I hope it's gay affirming help so that these abusive patterns do not repeat. But this is not full accountability.
So you see where the thing is, right? At the end there. So the guy himself he's a gay man, and he had an issue with Michael Tait, being a Christian and doing the things he was doing and not being called out for it. So being a hypocrite. And then obviously with the Christian faith itself and what the Bible teaches about that lifestyle. So he had an issue with those two things. And on account of that, now you hear folks like him saying that is not enough. The confession is not enough. The repentance that we see is not enough. Him getting the help is not enough. These people want more than that. They want justice. Even the other guy said he wants justice. So there's more that they want. They want him to face some kind of charges. And that's usually the end goal of these things. That people want the guy, the perp, to face some sort of charges. And that is 100% expected, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. What is the sort of difficulty in this, or not even difficulty, but the thing that you have to notice, the thing that you have to be aware of, is that the motivations of other folks outside is not to, see any kind of restoration and healing happen to Michael Tait or whatever it is. It's like, no, they want jail from these things, and they want a win for the rainbow community. That's what they want. So that's what the guy wants. He wants a win for the rainbow community. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's not what the lady Jessica Morris wanted when she got this story going, right? So this is a good thing. They want vengeance, not justice. And Berean Bays is right on point with that. You know what I mean? They want vengeance and not justice. So when these things happen, man, you are looking at a situation where there are a lot of voices exposing the story, and they're talking about what's happening, and we should know. We should hold Tait accountable. I am in no way saying that this man needs to skate any charges. Don't hear me saying that. But what I'm saying is that the people who are coming after these perps, when they're Christians, in a lot of cases, they're not on the same mission as you. It's a different mission, and they have a completely different motivation. Thrifty said, in many of the allegations, also MT was much older than the victims. He was targeting people who were young and vulnerable. This is true. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, William. I would love to know myself. I would 100% love to know myself. Yes, power and control, and it's not about attraction. Only a professional can determine what is needed. This is what it is. I mean, it's like they're looking for a W. That's what it is. They're looking for a W, looking for a win, looking for a, we got him. He's one of us, but he don't want to be one of us. He faking. He's hiding behind Jesus. And then he's calling us out in the stuff that he believes. And so this is what's going on. So that's what the issue is there, man. So we need to be aware that this is another component of this story. So there was another, of course, a lot of TikTokers talking about this stuff. So let's look at this one take that I think was pretty interesting on this as well, on the whole situation.
Any thoughts on the Newsboys situation? You mean the Michael Tait situation where we find out that he wasn't a Jesus freak, just a freak? Before I share my thoughts on this, just a clarifying thing. This is not the Newsboys. This is the Newsboys. This is the Michael Tait Band. For those of you who have been in the dark, the 7 words that any ministry never wants to hear is Julie Roys did an article on you. Well, Julie Roys reported that Michael Tait is accused of sexual assault, grooming, and substance abuse. You can read the article yourself, but just be forewarned, it's pretty sickening. And I think the thing that disturbs people the most is not simply the allegations, but this opening paragraph that says it's been called Nashville's worst kept secret. Put simply, everybody knew. And the question comes out of that, then why didn't anybody do anything? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The music industry is not a ministry. In other words, the Christian music industry does not care about Christ's likeness. They simply care that you are marketable and you are profitable. There have been many bands that have started off as Christian bands, lost their faith along the way, and then even though they didn't consider themselves Christians anymore, continued to make music and marketed themselves as Christian bands. Why? Because there is a ton of money to be made in the Western church by simply slapping the label Christian on it. That's actually why, without getting too much into the details, over the past 20 years, you've seen this shift where there were a ton of Christian bands over all types of genres in the music industry to where everything is like super focused on like worship music. And that's because that's where the money is. Same thing goes for like the Christian movie industry. You can make super low budget movies and the acting reflects that. And it doesn't matter how good the story is or even if it has correct theology, as long as you slap Christian on it, you can make millions. So if you're asking yourself the question, how could this have gone on for 21 years? It's the same reason that Diddy was able to do the things that he did for so long. Money. I mean, how much 90s nostalgia can you fit in one band that people are willing to throw money at? I mean, people are willing to buy out entire freak cruises. I mean, Jesus freak cruises. Look, all I'm saying is that the secular world really knows how to sell Jesus. Capital Christian Music Group might sound Christian, but it's just a subsidiary of Universal Music Group. It's a business like all of the other record labels. The Newsboys Group is not a ministry, it's a business. Do I think what happened is horrible and people need to be held accountable? Absolutely. Do I think that reproach has been brought upon the name of Christ because of how people have acted? Yes. But I think it's also, too, good for us to be sober-minded that these things aren't churches, they're not ministries, they're businesses, and we vote with our dollars. And I think we as Christians for far too long have been giving our dollars and our money to things that have the sentiment of Christ but aren't Christ-like. And in that way, I think we, and I'm going to include myself in that, have been a part of creating the problem. Because businesses are more than willing to sell us something that has a form of godliness but lacks its power as long as we're willing to buy it.
Some of y'all better get y'all discernment together.
Man, yeah, he said a lot there. And I mean, can you disagree with most of what he said? Hard to. You are looking at a business and not a ministry for the most part when you're looking at the Christian music world. It is, I mean, we've seen how real this is in recent times, right? Where guys are just doing stuff and you're scratching your head. Why is this allowed? Why does this get it passed? Why does that get it passed? It's all about money at the end of the day. And we as believers need to start making those choices to not support certain music and certain, I would say, artists really who are not for the Lord. I mean, it's just that simple, where it's like at some point you need to be able to cut folks off. We talked about this early in the stream, but you got to be able to cut certain things out and be able to say, this is not what I need to support right now. Because if you say, okay, I don't listen to Hillsong's teaching or Bethel Elevation's teaching, but I listen to their music and I'm okay with their music. I don't support the guys preaching. Well, where do you think the money, every time you stream, where do you think that money is going to? It's going to that ministry, right? Or should we even call some of these things a ministry? That's where the money is going to. So when you stream music or go to a concert of these folks who are compromised, you are putting that money right back to the source of the compromise itself, whether you know that or not. So yes, just as they say, vote with your dollars or whatever it is, like, man, like support and show where your heart is at with your dollars too, right? And what you choose to support. This is just pivotal at this point. So yeah, man, I think we just there's too much here to say that folks didn't know. There's too much to say this was just something that caught everybody by surprise. And there's too much at stake for us to just turn a blind eye when we see things like this happen and give all of these ministries and stuff just a huge pass just because we love what they do and their music makes us feel great. Like we've got to move beyond that at this moment in time. So we got William said, yeah, the money. Yeah, I mean the bag. That's what they want. It's a business indeed. Sure is. We've got to be sober minded. Absolutely, absolutely. Get this. So I think I know how to pronounce this. Llewellyn Moss. Did you know Michael Tait's brother just got out of what 3 years ago after doing 38? No, I did not know that. I did not know that. Wow. That is crazy. Okay. So we got to dig into that to find out some more. That's sad though. That's really, really sad. So just a lot of brokenness in the family. Wow. That's crazy. Yes, I know how to pronounce that because I was in England for a little bit. Yes. Thanks for the info. Yes, and I've been to Wales as well. So yeah, man. Craziness. Craziness. We are going to look into that for sure. I want to know more about that. But yeah, y'all, I mean, this was, as I said, just like a quick coverage of just, as you can see the title, man, gospel chaos, things that we're seeing in the gospel music industry. You are seeing folks who are getting a pass. We're seeing GloRilla doing what GloRilla do and getting an award. You're seeing Kirk Franklin do what he do and, get a pass for being what he do, being who he is and all of that stuff. We're seeing madness. We're seeing essentially madness. And then we're seeing saddening things as well, where it's more serious. And at the root of it, man, it's that lack of the fear of the Lord. Is there a true fear of the Lord in the people who are supposed to be representing Christ? And who are they giving the right hand of fellowship to in the case of Kirk Franklin? Should we support this stuff? Should we not support this stuff? Which is what I believe. At the end of the day, we need to stand with the Lord and have a good conscience before God about the things that we are allowing ourselves to be entertained by, and the things that we are wholeheartedly, going out and supporting, man. So that's what I'll say on that, man. Let me see, man. Hope I didn't miss anybody else here. Motown. Who's Motown? Wow. That's is that a Malawi? Who's this, man? I gotta see who this is. Wawa is a term from Malawi, man. So I don't know who that is, man. Okay, I'm gonna find out. Okay. Greetings. Thanks for joining. All right. Hey, man. Truly appreciate y'all joining me this evening. I will be back hopefully with some more content before the end of the week. If not, otherwise, look out for the posts on the page. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things that YouTube wants you to do so that you can support the channel. I just appreciate y'all so much. Y'all could have been doing anything, but y'all here hanging out with me. I truly appreciate it, man. Look out for Berean Babes coming on live tomorrow as well. Got a good live stream for y'all planned, man. The Tiffany Montgomery madness continues, and all of the drama, all of the layers of that. Now you got Preston Perry stuff, you got Jackie stuff. Then you got the blind supporters like Marcus out there doing this. It's such a mess. Like Tiffany Montgomery is like the eye of the storm right now. She's literally just, there's so much mess with this woman right now. It's so much mess. So check out Berean Babes tomorrow. Make sure you join. That's about 8 p.m. on that stream. For sure. But yeah, man, appreciate y'all, man. Like, share, subscribe, man. And as always, if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. All right. God bless y'all, and we will see y'all on the next one. Peace.